As a brain doctor, I'm shocked. This morning, habit triple your stroke, risk after 60. Senior health, it is truly astonishing. As a physician who has dedicated decades to the intricate study of the aging brain and its vulnerabilities, to witness the profound impact seemingly innocuous daily habits can have on an individual's health, particularly concerning the risk of stroke after the age of 60. Many older adults in America hold the misconception that strokes occur without warning, akin to a sudden, unexpected storm. However, my extensive experience unequivocally demonstrates that the earliest precursors to such a devastating event do not originate in a sterile hospital environment. Instead, they begin their insidious development in the quiet sanctuary of the bedroom, the familiar confines of the kitchen, or the privacy of the bathroom, all within the crucial first hour after awakening. This is because post-60, the brain enters the morning in its most compromised state. Naturally, blood viscosity increases, blood pressure begins its daily ascent, and blood vessels lose their youthful elasticity. When combined with certain common, everyday morning practices, these physiological realities can more than triple an individual's risk of stroke even before the first sip of coffee has been consumed. This comprehensive guide is designed to meticulously reveal these often unrecognized morning triggers that most seniors fail to identify until it is tragically too late. More importantly, it will outline simple, actionable changes that can profoundly safeguard your brain health for many years to come. Before we delve into these critical insights, I earnestly encourage you to subscribe to this channel and activate the notification bell. This simple action ensures you will not miss future health tips specifically tailored to your well-being. If you find the information presented here beneficial, please indicate your appreciation by typing the number 1 in the comment section. Conversely, if you believe this content could be improved, please type the number 0, allowing me to better tailor future information to your needs. Let's begin with the first habit that, while deeply ingrained in American culture, can significantly elevate stroke risk: drinking coffee immediately after waking up. When I engage in conversations with my older patients here in the United States, a seemingly simple question often serves as our starting point. What is the first thing you put into your body each morning? The overwhelming majority respond with a proud smile. Doctor, my coffee. I've been doing it for 40 years. However, based on my extensive experience as a physician specializing in brain health, I can attest that this deeply ingrained American morning ritual is, in fact, one of the most significant, yet frequently underestimated, triggers for early morning strokes in individuals over the age of 60. Allow me to elaborate on the underlying physiological reasons. Throughout the night, your body experiences an extended period without fluid intake, typically ranging from 6 to 8 hours. As we advance in age, our bodies generally lose their capacity to retain moisture as effectively as they did in younger years, leading older adults to naturally wake up in a state of mild dehydration. This isn't simply a matter of feeling thirsty. In medical terms, this nighttime dehydration leads to an increase in blood viscosity. In essence, your blood becomes thicker, moves more slowly, and is heavier. This thicker blood compels your heart to work harder to pump it throughout your system and significantly impedes the smooth, consistent flow of blood that your brain relies upon every single second. Now, consider the impact of introducing your morning cup of coffee into this scenario. Caffeine, particularly when consumed on an empty stomach, has a diuretic effect, meaning it draws even more water out of your body, thus exacerbating the dehydration you already woke up with. Simultaneously, caffeine acts as a powerful stimulant to the sympathetic nervous system, often referred to as the fight or flight response. This stimulation results in a noticeable surge in your heart rate and blood pressure within minutes of opening your eyes. For a healthy 30-year-old, such a surge might not pose a significant threat. However, for an individual over 60 whose arteries have become stiffer, whose blood vessels may be narrower, and whose brain is already in a more vulnerable state, this combination can be exceptionally dangerous. The consequences can manifest in several critical ways. Firstly, it triggers strokes. In the early morning hours, your blood pressure naturally begins to rise. When this physiological increase is compounded by dehydration and the stimulating effects of caffeine, it creates a sudden, potentially overwhelming spike in pressure. This spike can strain and even rupture the delicate blood vessels within the brain. Secondly, it facilitates the formation of blood clots. Thick, concentrated blood, as is present during dehydration, is inherently more prone to clotting. When caffeine further constricts your blood vessels, the resulting narrowing increases the likelihood that a forming clot will become lodged, leading to an ischemic stroke. Thirdly, it significantly reduces early morning blood flow to the brain. Older adults already experience a natural dip in cerebral perfusion during the morning hours. Consuming caffeine before hydration deepens this dip, effectively starving brain cells of essential oxygen during a time when they are at their most vulnerable. I vividly recall an 82-year-old patient of mine from Arizona. He was generally in good health, had no history of smoking, and maintained an active lifestyle by walking a mile daily. Despite this, he began experiencing fleeting episodes of hand clumsiness and difficulty recalling simple words during his breakfast. Subsequent scans revealed that he had suffered several small, silent, transient ischemic attacks, TIAs, often referred to as mini-strokes, which were occurring shortly after waking. The sole consistent factor in his routine was his habit of drinking strong black coffee first thing in the morning before consuming a single drop of water. Once we advised him to reverse this routine, prioritizing a glass of water before his coffee, those alarming episodes ceased entirely. This isn't about abstaining from coffee altogether. It's about strategic timing. Your brain upon waking does not require immediate stimulation. What it truly needs is circulation, hydration, and a sense of safety. If this single, seemingly minor habit can incrementally push a healthy older adult towards a stroke, it begs the question, what other everyday morning behaviors might be silently escalating your risk without your awareness? The subsequent habit I will discuss is even more prevalent, yet it receives far less attention. If you're still with me and finding this information valuable, please leave a comment with the number 1 to let me know. Let's move on to point number 2. 2, sitting too long on the edge of the bed without moving. Among my older patients here in the United States, this is a habit that they almost never consider as a potential risk factor. They wake up, propel themselves into an upright position, and then sit on the edge of their bed, sometimes for 5 minutes, sometimes for as long as 20, seemingly waiting for their bodies to fully awaken and warm up. This practice feels entirely harmless and gentle, a natural way to ease into the day. However, from a medical perspective, for adults over the age of 60, this period of quiet stillness is anything but benign. In fact, it represents one of the most insidious early morning conditions that can trigger strokes and silently promote the formation of blood clots, all before you've even taken your first step of the day. Let me explain the underlying physiology. During sleep, your blood flow naturally slows down, and blood tends to pool in the lower extremities. This is a normal physiological process. However, as we age, a critical change occurs. The veins in our legs lose their elasticity, and the valves within them become weaker, leading to more sluggish circulation. Consequently, when an older adult wakes up and remains seated without moving, the blood that pooled overnight continues to stagnate in the legs. Instead of returning towards the heart and brain, it remains trapped. This is a particularly dangerous moment. Your heart is attempting to reestablish proper circulation after hours of lying down, but your continued stillness actively prevents this crucial upward flow of blood. The result is a critical physiological mismatch: thick, slow-moving blood pooling in your legs while your brain is desperately signaling for the oxygen and nutrients it requires after a prolonged period of inactivity. This is not merely morning grogginess. It is a state of inadequate circulation, and this is where the real danger begins. It triggers strokes. When blood remains stagnant in the legs and fails to efficiently reach the brain, your blood pressure can experience a sudden spike as your heart attempts to compensate. This sharp increase in pressure, which is particularly common in older adults, can rupture fragile blood vessels in the brain or exacerbate existing blockages. Furthermore, it actively forms blood clots. Stagnant blood, especially in the morning, becomes an ideal breeding ground for clot formation. If a clot does form in the deep veins of the legs, even a slight stretch or a sudden movement can dislodge it, sending it soaring upwards. When such a clot travels to the brain, it can instantaneously block a vital blood vessel, leading to a devastating ischemic stroke. Crucially, this practice decreases early morning brain perfusion. Sitting still effectively bypasses the natural pumping action of the calf muscles, which are essential for propelling blood upwards. Without this vital muscle pump, older adults experience some of the lowest levels of cerebral blood flow throughout the entire day, precisely at a time when their brains are most vulnerable. I once treated a 79-year-old gentleman from Ohio who firmly believed he was experiencing age-related balance issues each morning. He described a peculiar fog that would descend upon him, accompanied by slight trembling in his hands and a fleeting moment of drifting vision whenever he rose from his bed. He attributed these symptoms to the natural aging process. However, what immediately struck me was his consistent morning routine. He would sit on the edge of his bed for a full 25 minutes each morning, engrossed in checking the news on his phone. His subsequent scans revealed the presence of microclots within the small vessels of his brain, tiny, silent injuries directly attributable to poor circulation during his morning transition. Upon altering his routine to significantly shorten his sitting time and incorporating gentle movements like ankle rolls and shoulder rotations before standing, his symptoms completely vanished. This case vividly illustrates how an action perceived as ordinary and harmless can insidiously creep into the realm of danger without anyone realizing it. Your initial minutes after waking are a critical juncture. You either actively promote circulation or allow stillness to actively sabotage it. Even a few seconds of gentle motion, such as flexing your toes, rotating your ankles, or rolling your shoulders, can make a profound difference between healthy morning blood flow and a dangerous stagnation that places your brain at significant risk. And if merely sitting still can contribute to such serious harm, you might be astonished by the implications of the next habit on our list, one that millions of older Americans engage in every single morning, often without any inkling of its true risk. 3. Rushing to the bathroom the moment you stand up. Among my older patients across the United States, this is frequently cited as one of the most common and, unfortunately, most misunderstood morning habits. Many seniors wake up feeling an urgent need to use the restroom, often a consequence of holding urine overnight. The immediate reaction is to stand up quickly and hurry directly to the bathroom. This action feels entirely natural and necessary. However, for individuals over the age of 60, this seemingly simple maneuver initiates one of the most perilous physiological shifts of the entire day. Let's dissect what occurs within your body the very instant your feet make contact with the floor. During sleep, your blood pressure naturally lowers, your heart rate slows, and your circulation becomes steady and tranquil. When you abruptly transition from a lying down position to standing, your body must instantaneously make adjustments to maintain adequate blood flow to the brain. While younger adults typically navigate this shift with ease, older adults often experience a diminished response from their cardiovascular reflexes. Their blood vessels are stiffer, and their hearts take longer to stabilize. This creates a moment of what is known as orthostatic stress, characterized by a sudden drop in blood pressure as gravity pulls blood towards your legs. If you stand up too rapidly, your brain can be temporarily deprived of sufficient oxygen, leading to dizziness, blurred vision, and a feeling of instability. When this inherent vulnerability is compounded by the urgency and physical exertion associated with a hurried trip to the bathroom, the risks escalate dramatically. Here's the crucial explanation. To urinate, particularly after holding urine overnight, your body engages what is called the Valsalva maneuver. This is a reflex action that involves momentarily increasing pressure in your chest and abdomen. This action places a significant strain on your cardiovascular system, forcing your heart and blood vessels to work against this increased internal pressure. For individuals over 60, this potent combination, standing too quickly, walking with urgency, and then straining, can trigger a dangerous cascade of physiological events within the body. Firstly, it can trigger strokes, the sudden, dramatic fluctuations in blood pressure, both the initial drop upon standing and the subsequent rise from straining, can rupture fragile blood vessels in the brain or destabilize blood flow in areas already compromised by aging plaque. It is not uncommon for early morning strokes to occur in or very near the bathroom, precisely because these rapid physiological shifts are taking place. Secondly, it can facilitate the formation of blood clots. When blood pressure experiences harsh fluctuations, the older, less flexible vessels struggle to maintain a smooth and consistent flow. The stagnant blood that may have pooled in the legs, combined with the internal strain of urination, can significantly encourage clot formation. A clot that breaks free during this unstable period can rapidly travel upwards, potentially blocking a cerebral artery and causing an ischemic stroke within mere seconds. Thirdly, it places an immense and potentially dangerous strain on the heart. In senior individuals, the heart muscle may not be able to respond quickly enough to these abrupt changes in pressure. This lag in response can lead to a critical deprivation of oxygen to the brain at precisely the moment when stability is paramount. I recall a 76-year-old woman from Michigan who sought my help after experiencing 2 frightening episodes of brief blackouts. These episodes occurred each morning immediately after she got out of bed and headed to the bathroom. She assumed these were simply manifestations of aging. However, upon a thorough review of her daily routine, the pattern became undeniable. She would leap out of bed the moment her eyes opened, rush to the bathroom, and then strain. Her blood pressure readings confirmed sharp drops followed by equally sudden spikes. She was subsequently diagnosed with 2 tiny TIAs, or mini strokes, which were very likely triggered by these abrupt and forceful morning transitions. While this habit may feel entirely normal because it is a part of daily life for an aging body, the initial 60 seconds after waking demand a level of respect, patience, and gentleness. Your brain and heart require time to adjust and stabilize before you subject them to significant strain. Slow down. Take a moment to pause before rising. Give your body the opportunity to find its balance before you propel yourself away from the bed. And if you believe this bathroom habit carries risks, prepare yourself for the next morning behavior, a common and seemingly healthy trend adopted by many older Americans who remain unaware that it can place their brains under even greater stress. If you're still engaged with this content and finding the insights helpful, please signal your agreement by commenting with the number 1 below. Now, let us proceed to point number 4. 4. Skipping breakfast or taking morning medications on an empty stomach. Among older adults in the United States, this particular habit has quietly woven itself into the fabric of modern morning culture. Many seniors wake up, have their coffee, take their medications, and then embark on their day with absolutely nothing in their stomach. Some adopt this practice because they don't feel particularly hungry in the morning. Others are exploring intermittent fasting, and a significant number simply fall into this routine without ever pausing to consider its potential impact. However, as a physician who has had the privilege of treating thousands of older Americans, I can unequivocally state this. For individuals over the age of 60, beginning the day without consuming any food is one of the most detrimental early morning stressors you can inflict upon your brain. It's not merely about feeling a lack of energy. Skipping breakfast profoundly alters your physiology in ways that can directly trigger strokes and silently promote the formation of blood clots, often long before lunchtime even arrives. Let me meticulously explain what transpires within your body. Throughout the night, your body diligently utilizes stored glucose to sustain brain function during sleep. Upon waking, your brain anticipates a replenishment of these energy reserves. However, as we age, the efficiency of the liver in releasing stored glucose tends to diminish. Consequently, older adults become considerably more susceptible to morning hypoglycemia or low blood sugar. While this may not be severe enough to cause fainting, it is certainly sufficient to restrict the brain's access to its primary fuel source. The brain, being the most sensitive organ in your body, possesses a very limited capacity to store energy. It requires a constant and steady supply of glucose to function optimally. When this consistent supply is interrupted, a cascade of potentially dangerous physiological events can be initiated. Firstly, your blood pressure can rise sharply. Your body perceives low blood sugar as a threat, triggering the release of stress hormones, particularly cortisol and adrenaline. These hormones are designed to mobilize glucose from storage and force it into the bloodstream. This hormonal surge, in turn, causes your blood vessels to tighten, which can elevate your blood pressure to unsafe levels. Secondly, your blood becomes significantly more prone to clotting. Low glucose levels not only alter platelet activity, but also contribute to a thicker blood consistency. In older adults, this creates an almost perfect environment for the formation of blood clots. A small clot that develops in the morning, exacerbated by dehydration and the inherent stiffness of blood vessels, can easily travel upwards and obstruct a vessel in the brain. This is a primary reason why skipping breakfast is consistently linked to a higher risk of ischemic stroke in seniors. Thirdly, it triggers strokes through unstable circulation. When the brain perceives a deficit in its fuel supply, blood flow can become erratic. Blood vessels may dilate and constrict unpredictably. For aging arteries that may already harbor plaque, these unpredictable fluctuations can dislodge existing plaque deposits or exacerbate blockages, further compromising blood flow. Fourthly, medications can become considerably more dangerous when taken on an empty stomach. Many older Americans rely on morning medications to manage conditions such as high blood pressure, diabetes, thyroid issues, or to prevent clotting. Without the presence of food to buffer their absorption, these drugs can enter the bloodstream too rapidly. This rapid absorption can lead to sudden, precipitous drops in blood pressure or sharp, destabilizing fluctuations that severely disrupt circulation. I once cared for a 72-year-old gentleman from Florida who was convinced that skipping breakfast and consuming only black coffee each morning was a healthy practice. He began experiencing intermittent waves of confusion, accompanied by shaky hands and difficulty recalling words, typically around 10 a.m. He initially attributed these symptoms to the normal progression of aging. However, upon examining his blood glucose patterns, the truth became starkly evident. His blood sugar was plummeting each morning. Furthermore, his practice of taking his medications on an empty stomach was significantly amplifying these dangerous swings in his blood pressure. A subsequent scan revealed that he had indeed suffered a small morning TIA, a mini stroke, which was almost certainly caused by the combined effects of low blood sugar, dehydration, and the rapid absorption of his medications. Once he introduced a small, easily digestible morning meal, something as simple as yogurt, a boiled egg, or a handful of walnuts, his concerning symptoms completely subsided. For older adults, breakfast is not merely about satisfying hunger. It is fundamentally about establishing physiological stability. It is about providing the brain with the essential fuel it requires to navigate the inherent physiological challenges of the morning. You do not need to prepare an elaborate meal, nor do you need to spend significant time cooking. Simply providing your brain with something to work with makes a profound difference. Because if the simple act of skipping breakfast can introduce such a significant level of risk, it is imperative that you prepare yourself for the next morning habit. This is something that millions of seniors perceive as entirely harmless, yet it silently subjects the brain to a level of stress that most individuals never fully comprehend until it is tragically too late. If you are still following along and finding this information to be of great value, please let me know by commenting with the number 1 below. Now, let's transition to point number 5. 5. Starting your day with stress, checking the news, emails, or social media too soon. Of all the morning habits I observe among older Americans, this particular one is quietly emerging as the most destructive. It doesn't involve strenuous physical activity, dietary choices, medication regimens, meetings, or even fluid intake. Instead, it involves something far more subtle, yet infinitely more dangerous for an aging brain: early morning stress. For a considerable number of seniors across the United States, their day commences the very moment their phone illuminates or the television screen flickers to life. News alerts, financial updates, political headlines, emails from family members, messages from friends. Your brain is instantly inundated with a barrage of stimulation before your feet have even touched the floor. While this may feel like a simple act of checking in to your nervous system, particularly after the age of 60, 70, or 80, this constitutes a profound shock, a jarring jolt, a sudden wave of psychological stress delivered at the most vulnerable moment of the entire day. Let's examine the medical reality underpinning this phenomenon. The human body is intrinsically programmed to experience a natural surge in cortisol, a stress hormone, during the early morning hours. While cortisol plays a vital role in helping us wake up and regain alertness, its levels in older adults tend to be higher and persist for longer durations, often peaking between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. Now imagine introducing additional emotional stress on top of this already elevated physiological stress. Your blood pressure is already beginning its natural morning rise. Your blood is thicker due to nighttime dehydration. Your nervous system is in the process of transitioning from sleep mode to wakefulness. Your circulation is still striving to stabilize. And then you suddenly introduce emotions like fear, frustration, worry, or an overwhelming sense of emotional overload through a glowing screen or a blaring television. Here is precisely what this detrimental combination engenders within the aging body: a powerful spike in blood pressure, a significant constriction of already stiff blood vessels, a sudden and often alarming increase in the workload placed upon the heart, and an immediate reduction in blood flow to critical areas of the brain. This is not a minor or temporary disruption. This is the exact type of pressure surge that brain specialists like myself dread. For seniors, these early morning pressure spikes are associated with two particularly grave outcomes. Firstly, it triggers strokes. When emotional stress causes blood vessels to constrict further, especially those already tightened by the morning cortisol surge, the resulting pressure increase can rupture a fragile artery or destabilize a pre-existing plaque deposit. Numerous studies consistently indicate that strokes occur with greater frequency in the morning, precisely because the brain is caught in this critical storm of heightened pressure and vulnerability. Secondly, it promotes the formation of blood clots. Stress hormones have a direct effect on blood stickiness. Platelets become more activated and the blood thickens. When you combine this with dehydration, elevated cortisol levels, and the shock of emotional distress, you create an environment where blood clots can form more readily and travel upwards towards the brain. I once treated a 72-year-old Vietnam veteran from Texas who made it a habit to start every single day by watching the news. He admitted that it often got his blood boiling, but he believed it was essential for staying informed. Over the course of several weeks, he began experiencing episodes of flashing lights in his vision and brief moments of confusion, clear signs of transient ischemic attacks. His personal blood pressure logs revealed dramatic early morning surges, sometimes reaching dangerously high levels within mere minutes of waking. When he finally made the conscious decision to cease watching the news first thing in the morning and instead dedicated the initial 10 minutes to quiet breathing exercises and gentle walking, those alarming episodes completely disappeared. His experience serves as a vital warning to every older American. Your morning should not commence with stress, arguments, alarming headlines, or any form of stimulation that your brain is not yet equipped to process. The aging brain necessitates a buffer, a gentle transition period before it is exposed to the pressures of the outside world. Even a mere 10 minutes of calm can provide your circulatory system with the stability it needs and allow your brain to receive the oxygenated blood it so desperately requires after a long night. Ask yourself this: if something as seemingly innocuous as a news notification can inflict damage upon an older brain, what about the next morning habit on our list? This habit appears peaceful, even healthy, yet it carries a hidden danger that virtually no one discusses. You may find the implications quite shocking. If you are still following along and finding this information valuable, please comment with the number 1 below. Now let us continue with point number 6. 6. Ignoring morning blood pressure checks. The silent danger that most seniors never see coming. When I converse with older adults across the United States, a common sentiment I encounter is, "Doctor, I only check my blood pressure when I feel something is wrong." Every single time I hear this statement, a profound sense of concern washes over me. This is because for individuals over the age of 60, the most perilous blood pressure surges occur quietly, invisibly, and with remarkable predictability every single morning, regardless of whether you consciously feel it or not. Let me elucidate what is transpiring within your body from the very moment you awaken. During the early morning hours, the body undergoes what is known as the dawn phenomenon. Cortisol levels rise sharply, adrenaline increases, and the cardiovascular system begins to work with greater intensity, pushing blood with more force and speed to prepare you for the day ahead. In younger, healthier individuals, blood vessels readily expand and the heart adapts swiftly. However, in the older body where arteries tend to be stiffer, plaque buildup is more prevalent, and circulation is less flexible, this natural surge can become a significant risk. This is, in fact, the single period of the day when blood pressure exhibits its highest volatility, and it occurs before breakfast, before most medications have had a chance to take effect, and before the majority of seniors even consider measuring their pressure. Why is this so critically important? Because early morning hypertension is one of the most potent predictors of stroke in older adults. Not afternoon blood pressure, not evening blood pressure. It is the morning blood pressure that carries the greatest prognostic significance. And yet, millions of seniors never check their blood pressure during this vital window. Here's why this oversight is so dangerous. Firstly, it triggers strokes. When morning blood pressure spikes, fragile brain vessels, which are often narrowed due to age or plaque accumulation, are suddenly subjected to intense pressure. Even a small momentary surge can be enough to rupture a weakened vessel or worsen an existing blockage. This is precisely why so many strokes occur between the hours of 6 a.m. and 11 a.m., the very window during which most seniors are completely unaware of their blood pressure readings. Secondly, it facilitates the formation of blood clots. High morning pressure forces thick, dehydrated blood to flow through already narrowed vessels. This increased friction not only encourages clot formation, but can also dislodge pre-existing clots, pushing them upwards. Once a clot reaches a narrowed artery in the brain, an ischemic stroke can occur within mere seconds. Many older adults remain asymptomatic beforehand because the danger has been silently accumulating. Thirdly, it destabilizes circulation before medications become effective. Your prescribed blood pressure medication requires time to take effect, often 30 minutes to an hour. If your blood pressure is already dangerously elevated before your medication begins to work, your brain remains unprotected during the most unstable period of the day. Fourthly, it leads to silent injuries. Many older adults never experience major stroke symptoms, but they may suffer from microinfarcts, tiny strokes that occur in the small vessels of the brain. These insidious injuries accumulate over years, contributing to memory decline, slower cognitive processing, balance issues, and diminished emotional stability. I once cared for a 78-year-old gentleman from Virginia who adamantly insisted that his blood pressure was always within normal limits. He would only check it in the evenings, when it invariably appeared to be within a safe range. However, something about his consistent report didn't sit right with me. We requested that he begin measuring his blood pressure each morning for a week. The results were nothing short of shocking. While his evening readings were consistently around 130/75, his morning readings revealed surges as high as 180/95. Within that very week, he confessed to experiencing brief episodes of blurred vision and momentary confusion, subtle warnings from his brain that he had been dismissing. With adjustments to his daily schedule and the timing of his medication, those alarming episodes ceased. But the most profound change wasn't related to the medication itself. It It was the critical realization of the danger that had been silently unfolding every single morning for years. This is precisely why I impart the same advice to every senior. You cannot effectively manage what you do not measure. A blood pressure monitor transcends its role as a mere device. It becomes a vital shield, protecting you from one of the most prevalent causes of disability among older Americans. Checking your morning blood pressure takes less than 60 seconds. Yet, those 60 seconds can represent the crucial difference between a stable day and an irreversible, life-altering event. Because if neglecting your blood pressure readings poses such a significant risk, then the next morning habit on our list is even more dangerous and alarmingly far more common. It is something that millions of older Americans engage in daily, believing it to be utterly harmless when, in reality, it may be actively setting the stage for one of the most devastating vascular events of their lives. If you're still with me and finding these insights invaluable, please let me know by commenting with the number 1 below. Now let's proceed to point number 7. Spending the first hour of the morning sitting still. The hidden circulatory crisis in older adults. Of all the morning habits I caution my older patients about across the United States, this final one is perhaps the most deceptively dangerous. It doesn't appear harmful. It doesn't feel dramatic. In fact, many seniors genuinely believe it to be beneficial, an easy, slow, comfortable way to ease into the day. However, from a medical standpoint, especially for adults over the age of 60, dedicating the initial hour of the morning to prolonged sitting in stillness is one of the most potent and silent drivers of stroke risk. Let me guide you through the intricate physiology at play. Upon waking, your blood is naturally thicker due to nighttime dehydration. Your muscles are stiff from rest. Your veins are relaxed. Your blood pressure begins its gradual ascent as your brain transitions from sleep to wakefulness. This is a period of vulnerability, a delicate moment for the aging cardiovascular system. Movement is the key mechanism that helps the body adjust safely to these morning changes. Conversely, stillness, particularly prolonged stillness, traps the body in a state where poor circulation can devolve into dangerous stagnation. Here's a detailed breakdown of what occurs within the older body when you wake up and spend the subsequent 30 to 60 minutes sitting in a chair on the edge of your bed or on the sofa. Your calf muscles, which act as the body's crucial natural pump for returning blood towards the heart, remain largely inactive. Your venous valves, already weakened by age, become less efficient, allowing blood to pool in your legs. Consequently, the blood in your lower body sits stagnant, cooling, thickening, and slowing its flow. Meanwhile, your brain, after enduring hours of sleep, is actively demanding oxygen and vital nutrients. However, the sluggish circulation struggles to deliver these essential resources efficiently. Over time, this creates a physiological bottleneck, an internal traffic jam where slow-moving blood accumulates in the lower extremities, while the brain above becomes increasingly undersupplied. And this is precisely where the danger becomes truly alarming. It triggers strokes. When your legs trap blood and circulation slows to a crawl, your heart compensates by increasing the pressure it exerts. In seniors with already stiff arteries or narrowed vessels, this heightened pressure can have devastating consequences, potentially rupturing fragile areas of the brain or exacerbating existing blockages. Many morning strokes do not occur because seniors engaged in strenuous activity, but rather because they remained completely still. It forms blood clots. Stagnant blood is, by its very nature, a breeding ground for clot formation. The longer blood remains motionless within the veins, the more readily platelets can clump together. Aging veins already struggle with the task of pushing blood upwards against gravity. Prolonged stillness magnifies this inherent weakness. A clot that forms in the legs during this quiet, motionless hour can, with the slightest movement upon standing, break free. It can then embark on a perilous journey through the bloodstream, potentially lodging itself in a cerebral artery and causing an ischemic stroke within seconds. Critically, this practice dramatically reduces early morning brain perfusion. Seniors frequently describe a pervasive feeling of fogginess or a noticeable slowing of their thinking in the mornings. This is not simply an inevitable consequence of aging, it is the brain struggling to function effectively with insufficient blood flow. When you remain still, your brain is effectively starved of oxygen at the precise moment it is attempting to awaken and regulate the myriad functions of your body. I cared for a 74-year-old retired engineer from Colorado who adhered to the same morning ritual for years. He would wake up, sit quietly in his recliner with the newspaper, and remain there for nearly an hour before engaging in any other activity. He believed this calm, peaceful routine was beneficial for his nerves. However, he began experiencing sudden episodes of blurred vision, tingling fingertips, and brief moments of confusion, typically occurring around 9 a.m. His subsequent scans ultimately revealed the presence of multiple tiny clots, indicative of silent microstrokes, which were likely formed during these prolonged periods of morning stillness when his circulation repeatedly faltered. When we implemented a change to his routine, incorporating just 5 minutes of light movement, marching in place, performing arm circles, or engaging in gentle stretching, his alarming symptoms completely ceased. The aging body does not require force, nor does it need strenuous exertion or intense workouts to thrive in the morning. What it truly needs is flow, steady, gentle, and consistent flow that safely awakens the cardiovascular system. Even just 2 to 5 minutes of light mobility can dramatically reduce your morning stroke risk. And yet, millions of seniors continue to begin their day in complete stillness, blissfully unaware of the hidden circulatory crisis that is silently brewing beneath the surface. Because if something as seemingly minor as sitting still can precipitate a stroke, imagine how many more dangers might be lurking within the everyday routines of aging adults, dangers that most people never recognize until it is tragically too late. Now that we have examined all 7 critical habits, let us synthesize this information. The underlying truth behind these morning risks reveals a pattern that every senior in America absolutely must understand before tomorrow morning arrives. The protection of your brain begins the very moment you wake up. Reflecting on my decades of experience treating older adults across the United States, from the most secluded rural communities to bustling urban clinics, one undeniable truth has consistently emerged. The brain is not typically harmed by a single dramatic event. Instead, it suffers slowly and quietly through a series of small daily habits that may appear entirely harmless but carry immense cumulative weight as we age. This is precisely why the first hour after waking is far more significant than most individuals ever comprehend. During this critical window, your blood is thicker, your blood vessels are stiffer, your circulation is fragile, and your brain is at its most vulnerable point of the day. The 7 morning habits we have uncovered are not mere theoretical constructs. They are tangible, measurable physiological threats that incrementally push the aging brain towards danger. They involve rushing your body when it desperately needs stability, starving your brain when it requires fuel, inundating your system with stress when it craves calm, and allowing stillness to calcify into stagnation when your blood desperately needs movement. Every single one of these habits directly impacts blood flow. Every one of them increases the probability of forming blood clots, and every one of them possesses the potential to trigger a stroke in a body that, with age, no longer adapts as rapidly as it once did. However, there is profound hope, for the very habits that pose a threat are precisely the ones you possess the power to change. This transformation does not require immense difficulty or significant expense. It demands only awareness, intentionality, and a quiet willingness to acknowledge and respect the realities of an older body, rather than attempting to force it into the demanding routines designed for a younger one. Consider these simple yet powerful adjustments: a glass of warm water before anything else, a minute of gentle movement before standing, cultivating a peaceful mind instead of immediately engaging with stressful headlines, a small bite of nourishment rather than an empty stomach, consistently monitoring your blood pressure instead of guessing, and taking a few deliberate steps instead of prolonged stillness. These seemingly minor adjustments are not insignificant. They are potent forms of medicine, essential layers of protection, and the very essence of longevity in its truest, most vibrant form. The longer I practice medicine, the more profoundly convinced I become that the distinction between a life irrevocably altered by a stroke and a life lived to its fullest often hinges on the conscious choices made in those quiet, unassuming moments, long before any symptoms might manifest. Your brain is actively signaling for your attention, your body is pleading for compassion, and your future self is imploring you to take action now while you still possess the agency to alter the trajectory of your health. Because if your mornings can subtly and incrementally increase your risk, imagine the immense power they hold to protect you once you finally begin to approach them with the profound respect that your age, your brain, and your life truly deserve. These insights are intended to empower you to live your life more fully and authentically. Now, I am eager to hear from you. Please take a moment to reflect on what you've learned and share at least one actionable step you plan to implement in your own life. Let us foster a supportive community where we can collectively embrace these truths. If you found this video to be informative and helpful, please leave a comment with the number 1. If, however, you feel it could be improved, please feel free to comment with the number 0. Your feedback is invaluable in helping us create better content. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more vital health information like this. Thank you for your viewership, and here's to living life on your own terms.